On the line with Lawrence Gowen from Styx. Come in the Chartway Arena in Norfolk on Tuesday, August 10th. Looking forward to that show. Tickets available through whynottix.com. Lawrence, I want to congratulate you on the band's new album from Styx, Crash of the Crown. How does it feel to, get a new album this time?
Well, it's perfect timing for us, actually. We finished it over the pandemic year. We actually began the album and had about two-thirds of it done before the pandemic hit, and then we finished it up over the last year, and then the record company, coincided the release of the record with the start of the tour, and it couldn't have come out at a better time, although it was, a difficult 16 months for everyone to endure. We were really lucky to be able to bring it out at the same time as we started back on the road.
Yeah, I know you got a tour that's going on. Did you guys, when recording this album, did you, because a lot of bands, weren't together, did you record it? I know you said some of it was recorded before the pandemic, but did you record your parts separately or, towards the end, putting the final tracks together? How was all this done?
So it was a bit of both because, as I mentioned, we had begun the record in 2019, and so myself and Tommy Shaw and Willie Vankovich, producer, we were in Nashville for a lot of sessions together and recorded a lot of our parts prior to getting the other guys to come and get involved. When the pandemic first hit, Dave, we thought, this will last about 6 weeks and then we'll get back to it. But, as the reality began to, show itself and we realized this could be over a year, two things happened. One was we began to notice how well the songs themselves related to what people were going through. So many of the interviews I've done, people would easily assume that we wrote these songs during the pandemic because they seem to relate to the whole ordeal in a lot of ways. And but in fact, the songs were written and the album was about, as I said, about two-thirds of it was recorded or laid down prior to the pandemic. But as we got into it, about 2 or 3 months later, all the Zoom calls and there's an app called Audio Movers where you can be in one studio. Like I was in my studio in Toronto, they were in Nashville, Todd was in Austin, Texas, but we were all connected through our studios and listening in real time through the speakers. So we were able to finish the record that way, which is remarkable, quite frankly, because we were able to communicate in a whole new fashion.
Isn't it amazing?
Hold on 1 second.
Yep.
Yeah, hold on 1 second, David. Yeah.
COVID rapid or PCR? They don't do the PCR here. They only do the COVID rapid.
It's a travel test. Yeah.
That might not be. She only does the COVID rapid.
It's not the antigen test. It's the do you have COVID test. It's a travel test. Ask them, do they do the travel test?
Travel.
Yeah, it's for an airline.
And then Jeff, you say, is that another pharmacy down the road or something? Maybe.
Yeah. Go ahead, David. We're just finding out some info here.
Okay. When and obviously you've been part of Styx for over 20 years now. Is this process? Did you find it more challenging or did you find it more rewarding compared to from the Mission and the previous Styx album?
That's a great question because the Mission, we were all in the same room all at the same time doing the record that old 70s style. And, the results were great on that record. Funny enough, with this record, let me jump back. About 12 years ago, we did an album where we would send parts to each other. Well, not an album. We did a single this way. And we really weren't pleased with the results because we didn't have that instantaneous feedback from each other. But in this case, we were all on the screen together, all listening in studios together, you know what I mean, even though we were in separate cities.
Yeah.
So our manner of communication has come so far forward, and it advanced. Within the first few months of the pandemic, that just advanced to such a degree as we were able to do that in a very authentic fashion.
Crash of the Crown, is this like a part 2 of the Mission? Is it the concept album? What would you say?
I wouldn't say that. I would say that you could hear it that way in a lot of ways. I mean, people are able to personalize it. No, I would say that you can hear a theme of renewal that runs through this album. Renewal, curiously enough, after a cataclysmic event. So you could tie that to the Mission in some ways, I suppose, if you wanted to go in that theater of the mind. But really, it's more. It hints more at renewal, and I think a lot of people can relate to that after the circumstances of the last year.
Gotcha. Well, the way the album starts off, because you guys are all harmonizing together, and it sounds great, by the way. It's kind of like a flashback to late '70s, early '80s, like Paradise Theater kind of Styx kind of sound.
Yeah, for sure. The way the record starts with "Fight of Our Lives," that really is that kind of lays down the gauntlet of where the whole record is heading, and that's the way we've been opening the shows. We start with "Fight of Our Lives," and that segues immediately into "Blue Collar Man." So you get a taste of the new and the old within the first 5 minutes of the show.
Nice. What is obviously you share lead vocals with Tommy Shaw on this particular album. So when it comes to like in concert and stuff, are we going to hear some of the tracks from this album?
Yeah, and much like I was just saying with "Fight of Our Lives," we kind of seamlessly weave them in with all the classic material, which is the bulk of 90% of the show, but in a way that really kind of is pretty smooth. Last night we played this new song that Tommy does called "Sound the Alarm," and that segues immediately into "Crystal Ball." And of course the title track, "Fight of Our Lives," that one's been going over as well as all the classic material from the past. I guess because people are quite familiar with it already with the lyric video and the fact that the album, it went to number one on Billboard's rock album chart, within 10 days of its release. That's the first time that's happened for the band. So it really did, penetrate through to that faithful audience that Styx have had for decades.
Yeah, well, they've been waiting for this release. You talked about Willie helping producing the album. Is he an official member of the band? Because I've seen different reports. Is Willie a part of the band?
Yes. No, Will is part of the band now. I mean, he's produced the last two albums, and he's become such an integral part of these records that it just made sense. When we did the Mission shows in their entirety, Will joined us on stage in Las Vegas and in Boston, and about to do it in New York when the pandemic hit. But it just made sense to have him with us full time, and so yeah, he's a full member of Styx.
Yeah, because I know he's worked with Tommy for I think the last 10 years working on Tommy's
solo.
Oh,
easily with Shaw Blades and worked on a solo record that Tommy did. So yeah, it seemed to make a lot of. It was a natural addition to the band.
How did they find you?
I had a long solo career in Canada, had multi-platinum records there, and was able to play all the venues that Styx play. And it just so happened that we played the same venue in Montreal. I opened the show for them solo in 1997, and that's when they first saw me. They heard the audience response to it, etc. And after the show, JY and Tommy said to me, "Hey, man, we're going to work together again in the future." And when they called in 1999, I assumed it was to do more shows together with me opening for them. But instead, they said, "We'd like you to join the band." So I joined the band.
Any pressure you felt? I saw that tour in '99, which I'm going to ask about your keyboard just a moment. But what did it feel like to be a part of an established band and you're walking into this new environment and given the history and how amazing this band has been for the previous 25 years?
Well, first I wanted to make sure that they felt they didn't make the wrong decision. So I really prepared myself quite well for it. Fortunately, I'd played all the size of venues that Styx had played over the years and been able to do that. And I had a certain confidence that these guys probably wouldn't make an error in judgment, but our voices sounded really strong together, etc. And that first night we played, I remember in Branson, Missouri. That's 22 years ago now, but I do remember the first time launching into Grand Illusion and thinking, well, this audience is going to hear someone else sing this song for the first time. But by the end of it, just arms up in the air and big smiles, and it's been kind of like that ever since.
And the keyboard, where did you have that as a solo artist, or is that just something that they wanted to make part of the act, or where did that come from?
The spinning keyboard I did an album in 1990 called Lost Brotherhood, and Alex Lifeson of Rush was the guitarist on that album, and we did a video together for the title track. And I had the video crew concoct this, the lighting crew concoct that spinning keyboard that you're referring to, and I remember when we finished the video, Alex said, "Are you going to use that on stage?" And I thought, I'm kind of thinking about it, and I used it in a couple of solo shows, and really the audience seemed to enjoy it. And I used it in the show when I opened for Styx, and they saw it and said, into the first rehearsal, they said, "I hope you brought that spinning keyboard," and I did, and I've been on it ever since.
How is it controlled?
I control it myself. There's a brake on it that's kind of stops it when I'm jumping on top of it and that sort of thing. But no, it's a pretty heavy device because it's made of stainless steel, and I just kind of pivot it, with my whatever body part happens to hit it next. the part that's the least bruised. Hopefully. Yeah.
I just remember that I saw it in the 9/9 tour. I was like, what's this? I've never seen this before. You've seen like the drum sets do all sorts of things, but never the keyboard. So,
well, if you ever saw Keith Emerson, he had a keyboard that flipped end over end. So mine was pretty tame compared to that. But yeah, I just love the way the guitar players can always engage with any part of the audience. But with playing a piano or a big B3 organ, you're kind of locked in one position. And I noticed right away when we were doing that video, it was great to be able to pivot around and look at the whole room.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, trying this on stage really helps, as a keyboard player, helps you to engage the entire audience rather than just be facing in one direction.
It looks great, and it's a great connection to the crowd. Lawrence, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to Styx coming to the Chartway Arena August 10th. I'll be there.
August 10th.
Yeah.
We are looking forward to it, David. We look forward to seeing you there, and all the best. Great to talk to you, and Styx in 2021.
I love it. And Crash of the Crown, man, great album. I'm digging the tracks on it. Love it.
Well, quote yourself on that because that's great to hear. Thanks, David.